Hey you guys, this is Professor Vitt, and welcome to Module 4 of our course. This is entitled The Unquiet Sky, and this module concerns itself with unidentified flying objects and or extraterrestrial visitation. That's the subject matter anyway, but really what we're going to be studying is reasoning, valid argumentation, and so forth. So on the right here, you'll see a picture of an item that we don't get to this module. It's probably the most famous UFO picture ever taken, and a little blow up of it right here. It's from McMinnville, Oregon, 1950. It might be 59, but it could be 50. And it is the one case in a report that the government, well, it's not the only case, but it's one case in a government report, which we won't cover, that is sort of inconclusive on the nature of the photo. And so it says it could be a UFO, if I'm remembering the language correctly. And so people who are interested in UFOs usually know about the McMinnville case. We are actually in Module 11. I got a great and thoughtful email from a couple of you telling me, hey, you know, am I in 11 or 12? You are in Philosophy 11, just all of the modules. For some reason, all the docs read 12. I think it was just a typo on my part. But there's no way to know. Okay, so we are on Module 4 of 6. This is worth 10% of your grade. Let me write the due date in there. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. It's due January the 24th at midnight. Make sure you put your student name in there. By the way, whenever you submit your documents, you can just submit them as the doc or the pages or the open Office document or the PDF. You do not need to zip this document when you send it to me. In fact, when you do that, it makes the process takes 5 times as long to pull it out for some reason out of Moodle. So please just submit the document. If everybody submitted zip documents, you would crush me. So try to remember, just do the doc. I appreciate you guys trying to zip it to make it easier for me, but no need to. Just submit the doc. Okay. Usual stuff here, except this week you have 2 parts to this module. The first part is only 1 task long. You're going to listen to a podcast. You're going to look at some arguments. We'll cover them down below. And then you're done. However, if you want to do the second part, it will be worth 10% more of your final grade. So in other words, if you're at a B, you would get an A. If you're at a D, you would get a C. If you're at an F, you would pull yourself up to a D. So it's probably worth it to you. You can either take the time or you can complete the assignment. But you do not, sorry about that typo, but you do not have to do both. You only need to do one. It is entirely up to you, but it is still due January the 24th at midnight, regardless as to whether you do 1 or 2 of the parts. So you only have to do 1 part. When you're done, you'll just submit it, you'll answer the questions. Okay. Part 1. They were old when the earth was young. Ancient aliens. When I was in law school, one of my most brilliant professors was rumored to believe in something like ancient aliens. And I just couldn't believe it. And in part, I think that's why I was so and am so interested in critical thinking. It's because I just think it's so interesting that someone could have and hold this view and be so highly educated. This was a person who held multiple graduate degrees from Ivy League universities. So I realized, well, it couldn't just be an issue of intelligence, because this person was manifestly so hyper intelligent that it was sort of beyond reproach. And so I don't know that I ultimately agree with this person, but I certainly think it goes to show you that you have to be mindful of confirmation bias and so forth, and keep an open mind. So please do. That is something that I think you'll notice immediately when you start task 1 and you listen to Monster Talk. It's a podcast, and this particular Monster Talk is one of their most famous. It's where they talk about ancient aliens. Now, the person, Dr. Ken Feder, who does the interview, is very boisterous, and he's sarcastic, and he ridicules positions probably just as much as he addresses them on the merits. Now, if you're someone who's sympathetic to this type of a theory, this von Daniken type of thought, then you're going to have real issues with what he says, because the immediate and natural response is to take it personally. So try not to do that, right? Just do your best to listen to his arguments, answer the questions, and get through it. That much being said, there is a little bit of language in this one, but they do beep him out. So it's kind of a fun interview, but it's not fun if you're sort of closer to that end. So okay, let's get to addressing what he says on the merits. He's going to give you 3 main threads for this ancient aliens theory. It's originally pioneered by this guy Erich von Daniken, who writes Chariot of the Gods in the 70s, and then publishes it. But he's actually relying on a legacy of other writers, some French writers, and believe it or not, an American writer. But that's sort of outside the scope of the class. Okay, then you will answer this is several questions, right? So now, I didn't give you a minimum word count on these. I'm assuming that you know what will count, what will be too brief and what isn't. In other words, at this point, you're getting the feel. If people don't write sufficient, then I'll give you guys minimum word totals. But for this one task for this week, I didn't do it. We'll see how it goes. Okay. They're going to have a very interesting discussion about the pyramids and how they were made and how this fits into what we already know. They're going to talk about Pakal and the Mayans, and they're going to talk about primitives and the sophisticated, sorry about the typo, Mayan calendar. You're going to have to Google number 5. It's a question about these Saqqara birds. They were found, and with some, I think there's one modification that's made. I think that's right. I don't quote me on it. And then these appear to be aerodynamic, and so people think this is evidence that the ancients were capable of flight or had seen things that were in flight or something like that. But you'll Google that on your own, and then you're done. That's it. That's it for this week. So if you don't want to do any more work, boom, you're done. If you want the extra credit, part 2 is the day the sky opened, named after a good Twilight Zone, where you are going to read chapter 5 in the Weird Book. You're going to talk about the nature of personal experience and how that can affect our perception. And then you're going to read another Ben Radford article on the history of UFOs, answer these 7 questions. For instance, what was the first report of a flying saucer? And why that's relevant, and then take a peek at page 100 and then ask yourself, oh my gosh, what is the role of expectation in perception, and why would this matter in the case of a UFO? Number 4, you'll answer, when was the first UFO abduction? Are there any corroborating witnesses? Is there any physical evidence of this abduction? So this is something that Radford goes into. And then he gives an explanation of why he thinks there are so many UFO sightings. And at the close of his essay, he writes, the lesson as always is that unknown lights in the sky is not the same as extraterrestrial spacecraft. I'm asking you, what logical fallacy is he talking about here? I can give you a little bit of a hint. Just because we don't know something, right? Just because we are ignorant of something doesn't mean then we can make a claim about it. So, for instance, if I see a blinking light in the sky, I should say, well, gosh, I don't know what that was, right? Not, oh, that must have been, a Venusian prince from Alpha Centauri. That's a type of argumental fallacy, and it's called the argument from, and it rhymes with schmignorance. Okay. Task number 4 of 6, you're going to watch a really cool summary of one of the most, well, it's actually not one of the most famous UFO sightings, but it is very well known to people who sort of study this stuff, ufology. I won't spoil it for you. Really, I won't. I'll just destroy it. Now, task 5 of 6, you're going to read the Johnson packet, which includes the U.S. government's declassified Blue Book report on this incident. So the U.S. government had this arm of the Air Force, or this wasn't really arm, it wasn't a huge program, but they had a program called Blue Book. They had a few programs here, but you're going to read the Blue Book report on the Kelly Johnson incident. And when it was written up, it was actually a classified document. So you get to read declassified material. And I'm just going to click on this link real quick for you guys. This is a transcript of the document. And here we go. We're going to it right here. This is a transcript of the document, and this is far easier to read than the original. This is a link to the original, and this is brutal to get through. I mean it in every sense of the word. It's tough, but you can see some cool stuff here about, conclusions and summary and analysis. This is the original. I added this here just so you know what it is. It doesn't say original in the original document, but you can see, look, that's brutal. I mean, I can't ask you to read that. So but if you wanted, to see both of them, then you could. And then this is actually a link to a third external website. It's not my document, where it's a Blue Book archive, where you can look through, I think, pretty much the balance of the Blue Book reports. I'm pretty sure there may be a fee to see all of it. I'm not quite sure. But in case you think I'm biased or something, I wanted you to have an independent link. Then you're going to answer these 8 questions about how long the sighting took place, where it was, how many people saw it, how many groups. That's important in this idea, and whether or not those groups were able to talk before they issued this report. That's important, or at least it will be for one side of the debate. And of course, did he make any money about it off the sighting? And did he believe in flying saucers before this? And could his expectations affect his perception? Okay. So hopefully I'll have freaked you out enough with that sighting. And then you will read a modern sort of skeptical approach from Moody. And it's essentially, let's just boot this up here before I screw it up. Here we go. And he's going to talk about the UFO case from the standpoint of a skeptic. And he gives you some nice background information. He even gives you the link to the original the video you've already seen, and then he discusses the video and he objects to things. He explains sort of what he thinks it is, and so forth. And then he gives his final thoughts. So you'll answer these questions. What does he find refreshing about the case? What 3 things does he object to in the treatment of the best evidence clip? Does he think the observers were trying to fabricate something? Were they lying? What does Moody think it was? And then the last thing, and this is probably the most important, where do you stand on it? And I'm not asking, you're going to be great on your belief. I'm asking, well, what reasons do you have for thinking the way that you do? You can get full credit on this for not believing in UFOs. You can get full credit on it for believing in UFOs. I don't care, but what I want is to see your reasoning, your argumentation. Does this apply to Occam's razor and so forth? And that will conclude the second half of the packet. So hopefully it's an engaging packet. If you're interested in something like this, as always with all of our modules, please feel free to email me, and I'm happy to direct you to other readings that might be of some sufficient quality that they'd be a good enough place to start. Okay, so that is Module 4. If you guys have any questions, please email me. Great job so far. If you're only doing half of it, enjoy the break. If you're doing the full thing and you're getting the extra 10% to your grade, enjoy the second half. Thanks.